next specimen?
Ah, yes. Well, the next person that we're going to put under the microscope
See those little science jokes there?
is a nuclear fusion expert, soon-to-be Dr. Adelle Wright. Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, it's lovely having you. So, I suppose just to begin with, for lay people like myself, what exactly is nuclear fusion?
So fusion is what happens when two particles collide together and stick. And that process releases a tremendous amount of energy. It's one of the most energetic reactions in all of the universe. And it's actually what powers the sun and a lot of the stars that we can see in the night.
We've known about this for a very long time, I presume.
Since 1934, actually, by an Australian scientist.
Okay.
Yes, Sir Mark Oliphant.
Go Australia. So 86 years. And you're doing your PhD. You're almost done. Have you brought something new to our understanding through your PhD work?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah. What can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. So the broad area that I work in is called fusion energy. So what it is it's to try and harness this mechanism which powers the sun and a lot of the stars and use it to generate clean energy here on Earth. So the challenges of trying to sort of take something that happens very naturally and pretty commonly on the sun and to sort of put it in a small building here on Earth is, can't be understated. And so in order to get the conditions in which you can get lots of these productive reactions happening, we have to go to really, really extreme temperatures. So we're talking something like 100 million degrees, which is like 10 times hotter than the center of the sun. So when you try and, handle stuff at those crazy temperatures, matter starts to behave really differently to what we're used to here on Earth. So, if I may, so if you, for example, take a block of ice, it's a solid, it's very hard. But if you start to heat it up, eventually it starts to melt and it goes from a solid to a liquid.
Yes.
If you continue to heat it up a bit further, it eventually starts to boil and it goes from a liquid to a gas.
I remember this from high school days.
Yes. But if you continue to heat it up even further, then the electrons are ripped from their atoms and they form a fourth state of matter, which we call a plasma. So plasmas aren't particularly common here on Earth, actually. You would find them in lightning, though. But they make up something like 99% of the visible universe. So it's not common here on Earth, but, it's everywhere in space. And so in order to get the conditions where we can get lots of fusion reactions happening on Earth, we study these plasmas. So what I do is to try and understand how this really exotic state of matter interacts with the rest of its surroundings.
Okay.
Yes.
And what have you found? I mean, my feeling is that it sounds terribly dangerous. Is it dangerous?
It's actually very safe, and the reason it's safe is because it's really not something that nature wants to do. So as sort of humans, we really have to force these conditions, and so as soon as, you kind of miss a little bit or, you can't get things as hot as they need to be, it just fizzles out. That's it. So unlike nuclear fission, which you might have heard of, there's some issues where you can kind of get these supercritical reactions. If you can't reach the conditions necessary for fusion, then it really just
peters out.
Yes, it does.
So it's quite a challenge to get it happening on Earth. I think we've got that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you might overcome those challenges?
Sure. So basically, fusion reactions happen when particles collide and stick together. So the more often they're colliding, the more likely they are to stick together and to make fusion reactions. So what we really need is we need to have a lot of particles all in a pretty small place, and we need them to be really hot so that they're crashing into each other all the time. So, it sounds kind of simple, right? You're right. But what the real challenge that we have is to be able to keep all of this, messy soup of really fast-moving, hot plasma together. So we can't really put it in, a regular kind of a box. So the only way we can really control these is with magnetic fields. So what I study is to understand how we can actually build a box made out of magnetic fields to hold all this plasma together.
Wow. So a box made out of magnetic fields.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, would it be something visible that you could actually see?
So the magnetic fields or the box? Because you can definitely see the box.
So, all right. So, do you have a box that is constructed out of another material, and then the magnetic fields are sort of?
Yeah, so actually, quite a simple way you can imagine this. If you take, say, the magnet on your fridge.
Yes.
I think you might remember from high school where you've got sort of the North Pole, the South Pole, and kind of lines coming out of it. So what we can really see is we can see these magnets, and depending on the shape of these magnets, they create different sort of lines that are coming out, and it's these lines that make the box.
Okay.
So to actually see this, we use a lot of maths, and we use sort of supercomputers to run simulations to try and visualize all of this.
Okay. And where do you keep the box?
There are quite a few boxes. The largest box is called ITER, and it's being built at the moment in the south of France. There's the JET experiment, which is in the UK. There are several experiments all across the world in sort of Germany, Japan, China, the US. I feel like someone's going to get cranky at me if I've left them off the list. Australia did have several. We don't have one at the moment, but we did up until quite recently.
Okay. And if we succeed, then we might be able to get some energy out of that, siphon the energy out of the box and use it.
Yes, that's right. So fusion, if we can get it to work as a power source, would provide almost essentially unlimited energy for the entire world.
Okay.
So that would be pretty cool.
Now, I understand that after you have finished your PhD, which is around the corner, you're going to be going to Princeton.
Yes, that's right.
For a postdoc.
Yes.
Tell us some more.
Right, so I'm going to be doing a postdoc at the Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory. So that's a national laboratory that's run by the US Department of Energy, and it's managed by Princeton University.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fabulous. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Oh.
I've been ripped off.
What?
Mate, you've got to see this footage. I've just been sent from who is it? Wronged waiter from Poolham. That bloody Clive Palmier.
Love your resort, mate. It's a picture.
Oh, thanks, Bert.
Hey, I got something on my mind. Hope you don't mind, but
No, spit it out, Bert.
I think petrol might be dead.
What?
That latest Tesla, it's amazing. It goes like the absolute clappers. It's so much faster than the latest Commodore. 0 to 100 in 1.9 seconds. Musk has done such an amazing job with it. Renewables, who would have thought? But if we're going to go renewables, let's go all the way. Fusion power.
What's that?
Fusion, it powers the sun,
Well, what does it use?
runs off tritium. It's the most efficient fuel there is. It's like hydrogen, only way better.
So I can mine it somewhere in the Pilbara?
Oh, you have to, manufacture it, so you can't dig it up. Fusion-powered ute. What about that, eh? What about that? What do you reckon? There money in it?
There's no money in it, Bert. There's no future.
Huh.
Sorry, Bert. It's the way it is.
Oh, I'm out of beer.
Too late, you're fired. Elon. Hello. Have you heard of tritium? You haven't?
The bastard, he's taken my ute idea and he's going to bloody run with it and make trillions. So you got to help me. How are we going to make a fusion ute? Can we do it?
We can try.
Excellent. So what do we got to change on a normal Commodore?
You've got to make it a lot bigger.
Cool.
Yes.
How big?
So you got to make it like at least maybe 10 or 20 meters across. Do you reckon you can do that?
Yeah, like a semi-trailer ute.
A big semi-trailer.
Yeah, like
yes.
one of those, road trains.
Yes.
Yeah, right, okay. So we need to change the fuel tank a bit, eh? Make it magnetic.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that'd
tell
be
me a
good
bit about
place
this
to start.
tritium stuff. What is it?
So tritium is...
Sorry, I lost my thongs somewhere.
That's a national tragedy. So tritium is one configuration of hydrogen. So hydrogen, you might have one proton, but you can sort of tack on additional neutrons. And depending on how many different neutrons you add on, you get sort of different isotopes of hydrogen. So tritium has one proton and two neutrons. And it's half of the component that is the fuel for fusion power.
There's plenty of hydrogen around,
Yes.
but there's not tritium. You need to manufacture it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So is that like just tacking on a neutron, like you said?
Yes. So the way that sort of people have in mind to make tritium fuel into the future is actually to do some tritium breeding. So as a kind of a byproduct of the fusion reaction in a power plant. So to sort of be ideally self-sustaining.
So then we could get a bit of tritium, and then what's the other half you said?
Deuterium.
Which is...
So deuterium is one proton and one neutron, and it's much more common. You can sort of, well, you wouldn't dig it out of the sea. You can sort of drain it out of the sea, but
Right,
yes.
okay. So there's deuterium in the water then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's a bit.
But there's no tritium?
No.
All right, so how are we going to work on this together? You're doing maths stuff, is that right?
Yes, so I like to do maths and try and make pretty pictures on the computer.
All right, that should be helpful for our fusion semi-trailer. But there's a lot of people who say, it's 50 years away. Is that for real, do you reckon?
I think, I think it's actually changed quite a lot in recent times, and it's sort of really been driven by this kind of exponential increase in supercomputing power. And so, back in the day, one of the real challenges of designing these things was it was really hard to sort of, you could sketch something out on a piece of paper, but it was really difficult to make the very precise calculations that you need in order to make sure that everything is, within the really tight margins that you've got to get. But now we can do sort of optimizations of these designs. So basically we produce, hundreds, even thousands of designs and change them slightly until we eventually get, what borders on being sort of the ultimate kind of design.
Right.
So I think we're making a lot more progress, which is fantastic.
So who's top of the game with designing? Is it, is it like the Germans with their BMWs? And you said there was a fusion box there.
Yes, that's right. So I'm just trying to think how to answer this question without offending any potential future employers. So there are two main types of configurations that we're working on. So we've got the tokamak in sort of one side, and you've got the stellarator in the other side. So one is kind of much simpler in shape. It looks basically like a donut. And so that's very comparatively simple to build, but it's also very dynamic, which makes it hard to keep everything together. Then on the other hand, you've got the stellarator, which is kind of a very wobbly donut. So it's much more complicated to build, but because of that, the plasma there just tends to sort of sit quietly. And so both of these have their advantages and both of them have their challenges, because I think if there's anything we've learned in physics is that nothing comes for free. So, you get some simplicity in the design, but you sacrifice for some sort of more difficult physics challenges. And on the other hand, it's much harder to build, but, you get some nice physics properties.
So have you been to see a couple of these different designs around the world?
I have. So one thing that I really loved about my PhD is I've got to do so much travel. I mean, it hasn't always been easy, but I've really loved it. So actually, just in January of this year, sort of, it feels like almost another parallel universe now. But I was in Germany for a few days. So Germany is where the world's largest stellarator is. So this very wobbly donut.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. So that's in the Wendelstein 7X experiment in Greifswald in Germany. So I was there for a few days. I got to check it out. It's very cool. And then I was in Culham in the UK for a day or so, and that's where the Joint European Torus is, and so that's currently the largest tokamak configuration that's working at the moment. So it's sort of the smooth donut.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, sounds like you've got plenty of experience. I think we'll make a great partnership, and we'll take that Clive Palmier. I'm going to call him, actually. Oh, come on, go through.
Hello, I'm sorry. Clive Palmier can't come to the phone at the moment because he's recording his wonderful show. Have a look at it while you wait. Hello. Today I'd like to talk about generosity. And you can trust me on this because I am an expert in generosity. Now you might think that generosity is just about giving lots of money to people. And you'd be right. Forget about any other type of generosity. Let's just call it G. Generosity is too long to keep saying. Generosity has 5 syllables, like animosity and iron ore mining. Anyway, some people think that generosity, or G, can be expressed simply through helping people by giving them time. T. But anyone can do that. No. Real generosity, G, is giving lots of money to people. And that's what I do. Literally, but mostly metaphorically. Did you enjoy my show?
Oh, you're just a blocked S-bend, you are.
Oh, you, out.
Me? You want me to go?
Yep, this is very confidential.
But it's being live streamed.
I don't care. I want you to tell me all about your work.
Well, she's already told us.
Out. And don't come back until Western Australia's borders are open. Right. Professor Nobel winning prize, Dr. Adelle Wright, I have a proposition for you. I think you've got to simplify things, streamline them down. And what I want you to do is, instead of trying to do nuclear fusion energy for the entire world, I want you to focus on my car. If you do it for me, once I have that fusion car, then of course I'll share the science with everybody, because I'm very altruistic. Mr. Altruistic. I mean, look, I bought millions of chlorofluorocarbon vaccines. Yes, for everyone. Anyway, I want you to think it over very, very carefully.
I'll try my best.
Thank you. Bye.
I might just take this opportunity to open up the discussion. Susan, Nicole, do either of you have any questions for Adelle?
I've got a couple. You talked a little bit about your work. I'm not sure I understood it completely, but I think you were suggesting you were modelling these magnetic fields. Are you looking at different geometries for possible confinement, or...?
Yes, that's exactly right. So at the moment, I'm working primarily at the moment on stellarators, which is the kind of the more complex, geometrically complex configuration. So one of the real challenges that we have actually is that, as theoreticians, we can kind of say, if you can make a magnet that is this sort of wonderful shape, the plasma will have amazing properties. It'll be just perfect. But then, we give these designs to the engineers and they say, you want us to build what? And so one of the challenges at the moment that we're really facing is, how do we integrate this process? So how can we come to a compromise where we have, pretty good properties, but also something that doesn't cost, $1 squillion to build?
And my follow-up question is, one of the things we always worry about with energy production is its cleanness. And we know about nuclear fission. Would you like to just offer a few comments about that aspect of potential nuclear fusion usage for our general energy production needs?
Yes, so nuclear fusion doesn't produce any greenhouse gases, so it's very clean in that respect. It does produce a little bit of sort of radioactive activated material, but unlike what you would get out of a fission reaction, these are very short-lived, so that they decay within, I think it's something like 12 years compared to, hundreds of thousands of years. And so what it really has a lot of potential for is to provide baseline electricity, so a lot of electricity in a very compact space. And so that's a really fantastic option for, a lot of countries around the world, including in our region, where they have a large population, not much space, and they need to power this in a clean way.
Nicole, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, the one thing that sort of struck me was you were saying that you could get these plasmas and drain them from the ocean. Is that a feasible option, or is that something that we really don't want to go anywhere near?
That's a fantastic question. So the stuff that we could get out of the ocean is one of the components. So it's the deuterium, and it's one of the components that would go into the fuel that ends up creating the plasma. But the amounts that we're talking about is something like, a bottle of water. So it's really a minimal impact, and sort of on the timescales that we'd be interested in, it's an effectively unlimited resource that really has minimal impact on the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, let's hope it works. That it doesn't just peter out.
Well, that's my job, so.
Yeah. Now, as we know, Adelle is heading off to Princeton. Do either of you have any advice for, what you should pack before you head overseas?
The little clip-on koalas that you can get from the souvenir shops go a long way.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, I believe that we are ready to move on.